Hello and welcome to Community Choice Credit Union's 2019 Bank Secrecy Act training. This is your Compliance and BSA Officer, Michael Christians. The Bank Secrecy Act requires all credit union staff to receive annual training regarding the requirements of the Act. Our approach to BSA training this year is to have all staff listen to this recorded presentation and then take a short SurveyMonkey quiz to test their knowledge. Frontline staff such as tellers, head tellers, account executives, and branch managers will also be required to review a supplement that contains additional information as to how the Bank Secrecy Act impacts their day-to-day activities. Let's begin. This presentation will run approximately 15 minutes and cover the following topics. Number 1, an introduction to the Bank Secrecy Act. Number 2, the credit union's member identification program. Number 3, our responsibility to check OFAC's SDN list before opening a new account. Number 4, our reporting requirements with regard to currency transaction reports and suspicious activity reports. And number 5, the credit union's obligation to collect certain information in connection with outgoing wire transfers and the cash purchase of a monetary instrument. At the end of the presentation, I'll provide you with some additional resources you may utilize should questions arise about the Bank Secrecy Act at a later time. First, an introduction to the Bank Secrecy Act. The Bank Secrecy Act was originally passed in 1970 as the Currency and Foreign Transactions Reporting Act. It requires financial institutions to file certain reports and maintain appropriate records designed to assist the United States government with detecting and preventing money laundering. Money laundering is the process of making money generated by criminal activity appear to have come from a legitimate source. The Bank Secrecy Act has a number of components that we will discuss in more detail. Number 1, it requires the credit union to have a member identification program in place. Number 2, it requires the credit union to check a new member against OFAC's SDN list. Number 3, it requires the credit union to file reports in connection with certain currency transactions or suspicious activity. And number 4, it requires the credit union to collect certain information in connection with outgoing wire transfers and the cash purchase of a monetary instrument. Let's start with Community Choice Credit Union's Member Identification Program. Our Member Identification Program allows us to form a reasonable belief that we know the true identity of each of our members. Prior to opening a new account, we must provide this disclosure to the member. It states that the credit union is required under federal law to obtain, verify, and record identifying information. Prior to opening an account, we will ask for the member's name, address, date of birth, and other identifying information. We will also ask to see the member's photo identification. In connection with personal accounts, we will ask for, number 1, the member's name, number 2, the member's date of birth, number 3, the member's physical address, and number 4, an identification number for the member, such as their taxpayer identification number. Community Choice verifies this information using documentation, meaning we will ask the member to provide his or her photo identification at the time of account opening. Our member identification responsibilities also apply to business accounts. In connection with business accounts open for a corporation, limited liability company, or partnership, the credit union is required to identify both a controlling party and all beneficial owners of the business. We must identify one controlling party for the business, such as the CEO, COO, CFO, president, or vice president of the company. In addition, we must identify all beneficial owners of the business. A beneficial owner is an individual that owns 25% or more of the business. Let's next discuss our responsibilities under OFAC. OFAC stands for the Office of Foreign Assets Control, which is a division of the United States Treasury Department. OFAC maintains a Specially Designated Nationals, or SDN, list. The SDN list contains the names of individuals and companies owned or controlled by bloc countries, as well as other suspected terrorists and narcotics traffickers. Federal law prohibits the credit union from doing business with anyone who appears on the OFAC SDN list. Prior to opening a new account, the credit union will check the applicant against the OFAC SDN list. If he or she is a match, Community Choice is prohibited from opening the account. In addition, the credit union's existing membership is checked against OFAC's SDN list periodically. The credit union must block the assets and/or transactions of a member who appears on the SDN list. The first of several reporting requirements under the Bank Secrecy Act relates to currency transaction reports, or CTRs. The credit union must file a CTR in connection with each deposit, withdrawal, exchange, or other payment or transfer of cash over $10,000. Multiple cash transactions totaling more than $10,000 during any one business day will be treated as a single reportable transaction if the credit union has knowledge that they were made by or on behalf of the same person. The credit union is required to file a currency transaction report within 15 calendar days of the date of the reportable transaction. The next reporting requirement under the Bank Secrecy Act has to do with suspicious activity reports, or SARs. The Bank Secrecy Act mandates that the credit union file a suspicious activity report in each of the following situations. Number 1, criminal violations involving insider abuse of any amount. Number 2, criminal violations aggregating $5,000 or more when a suspect can be identified. Number 3, criminal violations aggregating $25,000 or more regardless of a potential suspect. And number 4, transactions conducted or attempted aggregating $5,000 or more if the credit union knows, suspects, or has reason to suspect that the transaction may involve potential money laundering or other illegal activity, is designed to evade the Bank Secrecy Act or its implementing regulations, or has no business or apparent lawful purpose, or is not the type of transaction that the member would normally be expected to engage in, and the credit union knows of no reasonable explanation for the transaction after examining the available facts, including the background and permissible purpose of the transaction. That being said, those are certainly not the only instances in which the credit union should file a suspicious activity report. Staff is encouraged to report any suspicious activity to the credit union's BSA officer for further investigation. Examples of suspicious activity that should be reported include, number 1, a member adjusts the amount of his or her cash transaction after being told of the reporting requirements associated with cash transactions over $10,000. Number 2, a member conducts multiple cash transactions over a short period of time that cumulatively add up to more than $10,000. And number 3, a member's refusal to provide required information in connection with reporting a cash transaction over $10,000. The credit union is required to file a suspicious activity report within 30 calendar days if a suspect can be identified, within 60 calendar days if no suspect can be identified, or at least once every 90 days if the suspicious activity is ongoing. Suspicious activity reports are confidential. You are expressly prohibited from notifying any person involved in the suspicious activity that a SAR has or will be filed. You should share SAR information only with those that have a need to know such as your manager or the Credit Union's Bank Secrecy Act officer. Any sharing of SAR information outside of these restrictions is a violation of federal law. The credit union also has reporting requirements in connection with outgoing wire transfers. In connection with each wire transfer request of $3,000 or more, the credit union must collect and record the following information. Number 1, the name and address of the originator of the wire transfer. Number 2, the amount of the wire transfer. Number 3, the date of the wire transfer. Number 4, any payment instructions provided by the originator. Number 5, the name of the beneficiary's financial institution. Number 6, the name, address, and account number of the beneficiary. And number 7, any other identifying information specific to the beneficiary. Last but not least, the credit union also has reporting requirements in connection with a cash purchase of a monetary instrument. The credit union must collect certain information when cash is used to purchase a monetary instrument or instruments for an amount between $3,000 and $10,000. Monetary instruments include cashier's checks and reloadable prepaid cards. Multiple cash purchases totaling between $3,000 and $10,000 in cash during any one business day must be treated as a single reportable purchase if the credit union has knowledge that the purchases occurred. The information that must be collected and recorded in connection with the cash purchase of a monetary instrument is as follows. Number 1, the name of the purchaser. Number 2, the date of the purchase. Number 3, the type of monetary instrument purchased. Number 4, the serial number of each monetary instrument purchased. Number 5, the dollar amount of each monetary instrument purchased. And number 6, specific identifying information about the purchaser. Should you have any additional questions regarding the Bank Secrecy Act after you listen to this presentation, there are a number of resources available to you. The Credit Union's Bank Secrecy Act policy is available on SilverCloud. Simply type BSA policy into Just Ask. If you are unable to find an answer to your question, please don't hesitate to contact me via email or at extension 8111. This concludes Community Choice Credit Union's 2019 Bank Secrecy Act Annual Staff Training. If you are considered frontline staff, be sure to also review the supplement provided with this presentation. Also, be on the lookout for a SurveyMonkey quiz to test your knowledge. All quizzes must be completed not later than December 20th, 2019. Thank you for listening.